See, now, if you look at the ground, you can see there are berries everywhere, mulberries all over the place. And I didn't notice this last year. The mulberry trees are producing much more fruit this year than they did last year. So as you can see, I set my trap and I put it up against the tree and the fence line. This is an open spot that gets to the back of the woods. So he's going to come through this opening, and he's going to be, most likely he or she is going to be attracted to the fruits, and hopefully we'll bag ourselves a woodchuck. Last year I caught him coming through a hole in the fence over there, and I don't know what the rules or laws are where you're at and how you're going to deal with getting rid of them.
All right, my friends, this was an attempt to get to the second woodchuck. What you're looking at is a picture of the first juvenile raccoon that we caught. You can see the bottom of the cage is pretty well trashed. I've had these critters, and the woodchucks can do the same, but they'll tear those covers apart. So if you use something to cover it, either make it very durable or something you don't care about, because if it's cloth or plastic, they're going to pull it through the bars and potentially get it all wadded up, caught up in the mechanics of the trap. The bottom just saturated in mud, and so is hay, because he attempted to, I'm assuming, to try to dig his way out through the bottom with no luck. This is July 12th, and we are still in the process of trying to catch the second woodchuck, who's turning out to be a much wilier, and I think it's an older groundhog, so I think he's had some experience. He's definitely taunted us. He came out on the 6th or the 7th. We spotted him in the backyard. We had the trap out, and he ran into the trap and then ran right back out of the trap, and has not set foot in the trap since. Now, I changed up some bait. I was using rinds from watermelons, muskmelons, and some cut up apples, which is what we got the first woodchuck with. Second one does not appear to have any interest whatsoever in that particular bait. So I got the closest thing to mulberry, short of sitting out there and picking a bucketful by hand, was some raspberries that we got. He didn't seem to be impressed by them either. I have two box traps, one slightly smaller, and so I took and baited it and stuck it closer to the den, and once again, to no avail. The critter has avoided it or hasn't encountered it. I'm loath to actually stick it in front of the den at this moment for a number of reasons, starting with it's not our property. It's at the back end of a parking lot of a strip club next door, and the area is very rocky and full of debris. I probably will do a video on it sometime in the near future as a follow-up to my attempts at catching woodchuck number 2. I ran into this with one or two of the woodchucks at my mother's house as well. My deceased mother's house, I should say, when she was still alive. Once they've experienced the trap, whether they've gotten into one and gotten out, or they've just gotten aware of it, I think because of the number of raccoons we had in the trap in very short order, that the smells are still lingering, and that might have put him off to begin with. Woodchucks are known to allow other critters to reside in the same dens that they do. My understanding is they have no problem with rabbits or possums living in their dens. I don't know what their relation with a raccoon is, considering raccoons generally want to be up high in a tree somewhere and will sleep during the day and operate at night. This is one of the reasons I said in the previous videos that leaving your trap set overnight isn't going to help you get your woodchuck unless you're sticking the trap right in front of their tunnel. Now, I was able to capture one of them at my mother's house, one of the more reluctant ones, by doing just that. I set the trap as close to the exit of the main hole as I could, and then I draped some canvas over it, and I propped up the canvas to form like a tunnel, so the critter was coming up out of the ground and pursuing, continuing into what would appear to be a tunnel and straight into the trap. And I did not bait that trap, so there wasn't food or a lure there to warn him that perhaps there's something out of the ordinary. Keeping in mind also that the larger the warren, the larger the tunnel system, the more exits they're going to have. Traditionally, they will have their main entrance, which you can often find because there'll be huge piles of dirt everywhere, big mounds of dirt, because these critters can move upwards of 700 pounds in a day. Not in a lifetime, in a day. So they can. This is why they can be so destructive if they get under your structures. They can undermine the foundations of your house or your garage or your driveway and cause no end of expensive repairs. And this is the reason why I'm determined that these fine fellows are not going to live in as my neighbor, if I can have anything to do with it. I once again, I loathe the idea of using a lethal trap for a number of reasons. I'm just not that kind of person if I can help it. Although if you've seen my mole video, you'll understand that I will take desperate. I will get desperate at some point, and I will take lethal action. The problem with that is you're risking other critters other than the mole or the woodchuck by putting a live trap. Unless you get it in their hole, there's potential for, in our neighborhood we have stray cats and the neighbors' cats who run around, and they all are nocturnal when they're outside. So I have trapped one or two of the neighbor cats last year in an attempt to get that woodchuck that we got last year. And I've learned not to set the traps at night. Once again, I left these other traps open at night for a reason, to show you that you can get other things if you're not planning on it. In our case, we ended up with a pair of raccoons. We did safely relocate them to a spot near the Des Moines River, some many miles away. The consensus is at least 5 miles when it comes to most of these critters. If you relocate them 5 miles or more away, they're less likely to find their way home. And some of these are very territorial. It's not unknown for a woodchuck to travel quite a distance to return to his or her particular turf. So the further away, the better. When it comes to the woodchucks, we take them to another river, which is about 15 miles away from us, and that's in a lot of urban environment in between here and there. So the odds of them coming back here are pretty slim, unless somehow somebody else traps them and relocates them in my backyard. So you never know. Karma can be a tricky thing. This particular second woodchuck, I have no doubt in my mind, has some prior experience and or is put off by the trap. So now that this woodchuck is trap wise, he or she is very leery. She'll show up every couple days in the backyard near the mulberries at the very back, and we spotted him a couple times now, and he will stand up and stare right at us, acknowledging he or she knows we're there staring at them. So when we open that back door, he's off to the races. Now in our location, if you look at the previous videos of my backyard, is I have chain link fence around 3 sides of it. There are a couple small gaps where the neighbor cats come and go, and I'm aware of where they're at. This last one, I took the back chain link fence chunk that I had opened up so I could mow in the back. I closed it and covered it over the top of the box trap with the idea that it would limit the woodchuck's motion, so he would be inclined to come through the gap and into the trap. Of course, he's ignored that and used a different exit. I am aware of that exit because, as I said, that was the one where I trapped the woodchuck last year by putting the box trap right in front of the trap, and the critter may or may not have been aware that it was coming through and into a trap. It was much more ground clutter, weeds and brush and stuff in that particular location. So, time to get a little more clever. My plan now is I pulled the traps out, I've set them off, I'm leaving them out in the sun by the shed where they can get weatherized to help de-scent them. I've opened up that back section of the chain link fence to allow myself to get in and out with a mower, but also allow the woodchuck to become more comfortable again, or grow comfortable again, coming and going as he or she pleases, with the plan that in a week or two, once we've seen, because we haven't seen this particular woodchuck in probably 5 days. So it's not the same that he isn't coming and going. We're just not catching a glimpse of him, because he likes to come out in the afternoon, late afternoon, mid afternoons when it's all shady down there. I have yet to see him out there early in the morning, but that doesn't mean that he can't be. There are other mulberry trees growing in the wooded area to the back of us and to the left of us that would give them access to a food supply. There's also a nice water source. There's an embankment at the very back that is a drainage ditch that's constantly got a little bit of water. It's a stream. It's just got really high banks on it for flood control. The possibility is we will sooner see this woodchuck sooner or later, and I will then make an endeavor to close off the hole in the fence between us and the neighbors. And then I'm going to take some of the old, I got a couple of rolls of chain link that was left over from the previous people who owned the property. They had fenced in the front yard. I assumed it was for dog run or something, but they left the fencing behind it, took it down. So I've got a lot of this in it I've saved. And I save things because I never know what I'm going to use them for. In this case, maybe something worth having. Otherwise, I'm going to put up a temporary fence that will shoot off from the neighbor's fence across the backyard as much as I can stretch it to limit the woodchuck's direction of travel. And then with all possible stealth, I plan to sneak around the other side and leave the other corner open because I want him to know that he has an exit through that corner even after I've closed the fence up in the back and trapped it again. And so I can stick our second box trap in front of that particular hole. At that point, things get really elaborate because I will call the wife and have her go out the back door, and I will come up from the side, and with luck, we will herd this little critter. He will not want to be anywhere near us and will flee like he's done twice now and run for one of those three entrances. Well, if he can't get out the one, he runs to the back. The only reason he didn't get in the box trap I had in the gate area in the back is because I had it facing the other direction. I was trying to trap him coming in, not going out of the yard. So if I get to the point where I do this, I will set this thing up facing inward. So if he runs along the fence line and ducks into the hole, the hole he will duck into will be the box trap. And then the second hole, of course, his other point of egress, short of coming right at us, will be to go through that other hole in the corner of the back fence and hopefully into the second box trap. Of course, he might. We just never know what's going to happen. And it seems like a lot of elaborate effort. And I'm doing this for his benefit, to be honest. I do not want these woodchucks in my neighborhood. If I can get at all possible cost, I will relocate them. I know the damage they can do. I cannot emphasize that enough. Those of you who watch this video and have got woodchuck problems, you well know just how destructive these boogers can be. They tear up and undermine everything, and the longer you let them do that, the worse it gets. I really truly regret not having taken pictures of the interior of my parents' steel barn, that they had totally devastated the floor. I mean, it was just a huge mound and partially buried and stuff, and it was just horrific. And I'll tell you just how off the wall, out of the box thinking I tried at that particular location at my parents'. This has been 3 years ago. I drive what amounts to a septic truck. I clean grease traps and interceptors for restaurants and other businesses. So it is really nasty, greasy, narky water. And the truck at that time held 1,500 gallons. And I rolled out to my parents' house with a full load of this stuff, ran the hose down to their main entrance and shoved the hose as far down in as I could get, and then I turned the pump on in reverse full bore. So I power washed the inside of their main tunnel system with 1,500 gallons of really nasty greasy water, and it didn't faze them a bit. They came out through other exits, which is why I know that these tunnels interconnect, and the more of them and the longer they're there, the more intricate these tunnels become, because at one point I counted 6 or 7 exits other than the primary, and it becomes a thing, right? It becomes a me versus them kind of moment at that point, right? So I have tried some pretty crazy stuff. I will try to outwit this critter and as much as I can and get him live, catch the critter alive so I can catch and release. If push comes to shove, I will buy a lethal trap and I will stick it down the tunnel of this thing's main tunnel, which is one of the reasons I have not been over there messing around by their den. I've not put a trap in front of their den here, in part because it's too awkward and the ground's just not very suitable for a good trap. set up unless they had some kind of mesh uh, netting, which I have actually looked up. Some of the good netting is just freaking expensive. I'm not a wealthy person. I'm doing this stuff as best I can with the small budget that I'm lucky to have. So if push comes to shove, I will put a lethal trap in that thing's hole. The One of the people who live next door to where I work is a very nice elderly gentleman who has had no end of problems with woodchucks, and he's only 3 blocks away from us. So that's one of the reasons I know. And you can see the sign when you drive through the neighborhood. You can see where they dig. You can see tunnels here and there, old tunnels and new tunnels. So I know the neighborhood has a large population of these critters. In his case, they were tunneling, they were excavating out from under his new garage, which was threatening the foundation of the garage. My garage floor is cracked and tilted in the back slightly, and I don't know if. Considering the house was built in the 50s and it's an attached garage, I don't know if that's because of a poor foundation back then and just age collapsing, or if they had some of these woodchucks dig up under there and excavate and then cause the damn thing to crack and subline or whatever, to lower. And I don't want to see that at under the house, because we do not have a basement or a crawl space. We have a slab, and I do not want these things digging up under the slab. And there's one of my key reasons for going after them. Like I said, if they would content themselves to stay there in the back in the woods and not do this, I wouldn't bother them. I honestly just would enjoy them as additional critters that run around in the world, in our backyard. But when you know firsthand what these things can do, if you don't keep them under control, it's just you just have to be there, I guess. Well, anyway, if I have success at this more elaborate system, I intend to try to take videos of it. First, we need to let the critter, the little bugger, regain its confidence of coming into our backyard. Leave it alone for a while. Let it come back and eat the mulberries and stuff, and then set up the elaborate woodchuck trap and see if we can't achieve something. So, look back here. Maybe we'll get to it this summer, and hopefully sooner than later. Maybe the critters took hint and took off, and deciding that our backyard is just not a happy place to be. Till next time, this is Rick, and I hope you have a nice and wonderful day.